In this series, we're going to look at one of the great new features in Reason 5, which is the ability to sample directly into one of the devices. So we have NNXT, ReDrum, Kong, and the NN19 that are all capable of recording from a live microphone. Anyone that's used Reason for a while knows that this ability has never been there, and everyone wanted it forever. It's finally here, and we're going to look at it in all its glory.
Sampling itself is a bigger picture concept and there's a lot of details. So we're going to break up the overall concept into a number of different videos. And today we're going to focus on the basic setup, which is going to let us take audio from your interface and then just route it into Reason to get ready to sample. Where are we going to start with this? We need to look at the part of Reason that lets us declare an interface, and that's going to be the preferences. So I'm going to bring up the preferences by doing Command, comma, and we're going to navigate from the General tab, which does have a lot of goodies, but it's not what we're looking for today, and we're going to go to the Audio tab. The Audio tab lets us choose an interface. So I'm going to click in there, and you can see that I've got an Ozonic multi-channel, which is an old M-powered Pro Tools interface that works perfectly fine for this. Now, you're going to have a different interface. You can also use built-in microphone if you want to. The sound quality is not going to be good from your laptop or from your iMac, but you can use that. I go ahead and I select my Ozonic, and this is what I'm looking for here. I'm looking for the green check mark. The green check mark means that it's accepted that interface and it's going to function. Reason loves to use this color protocol that green good, red bad. So if we got a green check mark, I'm going to close the preferences knowing that my interface is going to work. Now, before I do that, I should say, if you by any chance see that red X, depending on what your interface is, you may want to look that it's a driver issue, something like that. You may just need to update your driver, but you need to have that green check mark or this is not going to go any further than this. I'm green, I'm good. I'm going to close the preferences, and now we're going to think about routing. So I've got my interface connected. What next? I'm going to hit the tab key to flip the rack, and I'm going to look at the Audio I/O section of the hardware interface. This is definitely where the magic's going to happen. You just need to know a couple things. It's not that difficult, but if you don't have it cabled correctly, just like a real studio, this is never going to fly. So the idea is that we are going to bring audio from an interface into the From Audio Input section and then feed that to the Sampling Input section and then feed that into a device. So there's about 3 stages. Any one of them's off, it's not going to work. But once again, this is not the difficult part of sampling. So let's give an example. If I plug my bass into, say, input 8 on a Avid 003, the only thing I'm going to need to do here is pull a cable from input 8 over to my left input because it's mono, so I don't need to go stereo with the bass. I'm not going to do it because it would disconnect my microphone from recording for right now. Although people that know me might think that's a good idea, I'm going to just let that go and go back to the normal routing. So think it through. Depending on which interface I have, I'm going to have different options because it could be a 1-channel, 2-channel, 4, 8-channel, 16-channel interface. This handles up to 16 inputs. So you plug it in, look at the input on your interface, and then just connect that same input into left or right. That's pretty simple stuff. If you don't do it right, though, it's not going to work. The next thing to think about is sampling input. You can kind of think about the sampling input as a waiting area for your audio because this is going to feed any of the devices in Reason. So it's going to be NNXT, NN19, ReDrum, or the new badness in the neighborhood, which is Kong, the massive new drum machine, which gets its own love in another episode. Once you have the sampling input connected, we can then go ahead and start thinking about some levels before we actually feed it to a device. So I'm going to hit the tab key and flip the rack. And now we're going to look at the levels. The levels, right now, we can see, live up also in the Audio I/O section. And we can see my voice driving into the yellow, which is a pretty good level. The downside of using this is we don't really see any audio-based numbers. We don't see neg 10, we don't see neg 2, we don't see 0, we don't see any of that. We see green, we see yellow, and we see red at the very top. So it could be useful if we had something that was a little bit more accurate. And strangely enough, the other feature that I really love in Reason 5 is Big meter. So I hit the big meter tab up in the top of the hardware interface, and I now get a very accurate metering system. This metering system can be assigned to any input or any output of any device in Reason so that you can meter it going through. You can only use one of these, so you do have to choose. So how do I choose what I'm metering? You come up into the audio input and output section, and you can just click on an input or an output, and that's what you're going to meter. So we click a couple, and we see that there's actually no level because I have nothing going out audio 6. I don't have anything coming in, say, input 6, but we do see where I have a level, and so I'm going to select the sampling input to monitor. Now, that's the direct selection. You just click on a square. You can also just change a channel this way, like any other American does, except unlike every other American, you will not be using a remote control. And it's probably been 20 years since someone's actually changed a channel without a remote control. Going out on a limb there, but I feel that's probably pretty true. I have a channel selected, and that channel is left sample input here. Make that really happen. So I'm actually metering or monitoring a level for my voice. Now, some guidelines would be, let's say from -38 to +10. If you're close in that range, I think you're going to have a pretty good level. Now, the ear test is the other way to tell with this. You want to sample something, and then you want to play it back just to hear what you have. It's still not Pro Tools. We cannot compress, we cannot EQ directly on that sample and process it. So it's not going to be the same type of sampling that we'll be recording into a more robust DAW, but that does not mean it's not going to be awesome. You can still get really good sound doing this method. At this point, we're ready to feed sound to one of the devices. We're going to get into the NNXT in the next episode for this and actually sample, and at that point, we'll bring in the editor, we will edit the waveform, we'll do some cool cropping techniques, we'll do some key mapping, some root note, we'll look at the sample management, but we want to look at those in detail, so we'll do those in the next episode.